Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Raya and I'm the daughter.
And I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
I had really bad COVID in January. I was out for a couple weeks and I said to the doctor, I'm really worried. Once I get better, am I going to be able to downhill ski? She said, it should be fine. Once you're back, you will absolutely be able to ski. And I said, that's great because I've never been able to ski before. We got some bad news this last week, last Thursday on February 26th. A news story came through on the Associated Press out of Kansas. It really affects the transgender community.
We've got a big issue to talk about. Stay until the end because we have some extremely exciting news. It's the kind of exciting news that we've been talking a little bit about and said, oh, we've got something coming.
I think you'll be very excited.
It's happening in a lot of states right now, and they have an agenda that is doing everything they can to eliminate transgender people. They take step after step after step, and the legislator in Kansas this time passed this bill that is going to invalidate 1,700 driver's licenses held by transgender people. That's roughly as many birth certificates under the new law that goes beyond Republican imposed restrictions in other states on listing gender identities in government documents.
This is a big deal because it took effect on Thursday. The Democratic governor, Laura Kelly, vetoed against the measure, but they've got a supermajority, and so they overrode her veto. The Republican state lawmakers across the U.S. have pursued another round of measures to roll back transgender rights, is how they put it in the AP story. So the bill is prohibiting documents from listing any sex other than the one assigned at birth, which means that it invalidates any driver's license or any birth certificates that reflect your gender identity if it's different. So for me, thankfully, I am not in Kansas, but if I was, both of those documents have been updated. And so that would mean that if I lived in Kansas right now, I would be getting a letter stating that I would be required to go back to the DMV and to go back to the state records office and get both of those documents re-updated because mine are no longer valid. Just like that. They just passed this legislation that means that I now no longer have a valid driver's license. That means that I couldn't get to work. That means that I couldn't go shopping. That means that I couldn't get the things that I need just to live.
That same law, actually, or a law similar to that, is already in effect in Florida, in Tennessee, and Texas. And they don't allow driver's license to reflect a trans person's gender identity. And at least 8 other states besides Kansas have policies that bar trans residents from changing their birth certificates.
And I don't think people really realize quite what is going on here because I feel like this is legislation that is being passed by people that have never met a trans person in their life. They have no idea what they're getting into. And what they have in their mind is a man that puts on a dress and says, look at me, I'm a woman now. And that's it.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about somebody that has had surgeries and has gone through voice training to change their voice and has gone through everything that, like has changed their entire personality and everything that they do. And especially what they're not thinking about is transgender men. When they hear the word transgender men, they are thinking of transgender women. They're thinking of people like me that are presenting female in the world, but that was assigned male at birth. But they're not thinking about somebody that was assigned female at birth, went on testosterone, has grown a full beard. It has giant muscle mass now because testosterone does that. When you start working out, you build a lot more muscle. And they're saying that all of those people now that look very masculine when you see them, I don't know any single person, any single trans man that is on testosterone that does not look masculine. And they're saying all
Right.
of those people have to have female on their driver's license, female on their birth certificate. And then this is also requiring them, just like in Texas, to use then women's bathrooms, and it would require me to use the men's bathroom in any public facility, including any facilities that are being leased by the government.
I like what Representative Abby Boatman said. He's a transgender Air Force veteran. And he said, "This tells me that Kansas Republicans are interested in being on the vanguard of the culture war and in a race to the bottom." And he's right about that. The people who vote for this aren't necessarily bad people. They think what they're doing is right. What I say is lacking is their education, their resistance to even trying to understand the other side. To do this just with a broad brush is so illogical without knowing all of the facts and not willing to know the facts. Oh, it just seems wrong to me.
No,
Well,
yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it? Well, it just seems wrong to me. And the Kansas Senate Majority Leader, Chase Blisey, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, he said that Trump's reelection and other GOP victories in 2024 showed that voters want a, quote, return to common sense on gender. He says, when I go home, people believe that there are just two sexes, male and female, he said. It's basic biology that I learned in high school. Well, the thing about it is that that is not what biology textbooks are saying anymore. So this is outdated biology. If you get a new biology textbook, the consensus among the biological community, the anthropologic community, all of the people with their PhDs and their master's degrees in these relevant fields have really come around and said, this is not what we think anymore. Gender is different from sex. And in fact, even when you look at sex, there's not a clear demarcation into two to begin with. For instance, the people say, well, only women can have uteruses. But the problem is that there are people with XY chromosomes that have full male presenting everything about them that are born with a uterus. And yet you bring this up to people and they say, oh, well, but okay, well, then it's something else.
there are more people than we know because that is something that would never be seen, and therefore it's not something that people would generally bring up. It's something that is completely hidden from anyone. It would be only if they choose to share that information that anyone would know that.
They call that the bad wig fallacy. Somebody says, I can always spot a wig. Well, how do you know that you can always spot a wig? Well, because I see them all over the place. I see this person with a wig and that person with a wig. Well, did you know that so and so is wearing a wig? No, I had no idea. You
Yeah,
wouldn't know that you're not seeing one because you wouldn't know you're not seeing one. And
exactly.
imagine if they passed legislation saying nobody can wear a wig anymore. Now, that would be silly, but it's the equivalent of this. They're saying we can tell, you can always tell when somebody's transgender, but they don't realize how many people are passing completely under their radar and they have never realized they're transgender. And do you know how I know that? Is because I have calls with those people all the time. They
Oh, yeah,
call
that's
me
true.
and they talk to me and they say, oh, these transgender people out there. It doesn't come up real often, but every now and then it will come up because it's on the news. And I talk to these people and they have no idea that they're talking to a transgender person.
Those people who say they can always tell if somebody's wearing a wig need to get a hair more education.
Yeah, I guess they do. So the governor, Laura Kelly, supports transgender rights, but the GOP lawmakers have overwritten her vetoes 3 of the past 4 years. Kansas bans gender affirming care for minors. It bars transgender women and girls from female sports teams, all the way from kindergarten all the way through college. Transgender people can't use public restrooms, locker rooms, or other single sex facilities associated with their gender identities. Although there's no enforcement mechanism until this year's law added a lot of new provisions.
And that whole idea of the bathroom bill, that is just so crazy. You get one of these transgender men who, like you said, they've been the bodybuilders and they got a full beard and all that. And if they felt that, well, if to follow the law, I have to go into a woman's bathroom, what would they say? They'd say, "What are you doing in here?" And they'd
Right.
kick them out. I mean, it
Exactly.
makes no sense.
Even when you say that, a transgender man with a full beard, what people hear in their minds is a transgender woman with a full beard. They are imagining somebody like me that was assigned male at birth, and they're imagining I am just refusing to pass. I've grown this full beard and put on a dress. No, these are the people that you thought were little girls and said, I'm not. And they started taking testosterone. They are the ones that grew a full beard. But those people are invisible to many of the transphobes that are trying to pass this legislation. They don't even think about transgender men because, in their mind, the only people that would ever want to be transgender would be transgender women. It just makes no sense. And it really indicates that they have not thought through it. However, they've tried beforehand. A lawsuit led to state court decisions that last year permitted driver's license changes to resume. So it's one thing for, say, Florida and these other states to say you cannot change your gender marker. That's already really bad. That makes it very difficult for a transgender person to function and live in society the way that they do. But then imagine taking someone like me or somebody that has been living their life in their real gender, in who they are for the past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and saying, your driver's license is now invalid unless you go back.
Just think about this. Suppose you, Raya, are driving along on a 4 lane road and you get stopped for speeding and you pull up and the cop walks up and he says, driver's license and registration, please. And you hand it to him. And he says, oh, he says, this isn't right. This says you're male. You're
Right?
not
This
male. Who are you kidding?
this isn't you. Yeah,
Yeah.
who is it? What? That's exactly the thing that's going on here is people cannot imagine trans folks that pass. They can't imagine trans folks that have actually had the surgeries, have actually had any of those things. Not that those things are required. There are plenty of trans people that do not pass, and they are just as valid as anybody else. But they can't imagine that there are those of us that just fly under the radar. And so, in trying to say we're protecting women and girls, what they're really doing is hurting women and girls by making it harder for everybody and putting women and girls in a place that's going to feel a lot more awkward when that transgender man is required now to use their space.
Right now, there are 7 other states where there are bills that are considering preventing transgender people from changing one or both documents, according to a search using the bill tracking software. And did you also know that immediately, the day after that, or maybe the day that it was announced that this new law is in effect in Kansas, there is a large group of people who are already challenging the bill and have a lawsuit pending already.
ABC News has reported that two trans men are already suing Kansas over the law
Good.
invalidating their licenses. They're saying that Kansas's constitution guarantees equality, due process, and autonomy, and that this is dehumanizing. And they're right. The suit asks a judge in Douglas County, which is the home to the University of Kansas, to block enforcement, including the invalidation of their licenses and others. And then a lot of advocates, including the ACLU, argue that this law stems from a 2023 statute, sometimes called the Women's Bill of Rights, that rigidly defines male and female by reproductive anatomy at birth, and they are contesting how that earlier law is being applied to IDs.
Well, I think that the people who are coming up with something like this are probably not gaining any new votes, but I think they might be losing quite a few. When you think that 70% of the people in the United States, 70% of adults in the United States are supportive of LGBTQ plus rights. I think that is quite a large figure. And to think that they're going to win more people, more votes because of their stand in this particular case, I think it might be the other way around. If you are supportive of LGBTQ plus rights, we encourage you to vote.
If there's one thing that I could underline with is the word cruelty. This is really about people being cruel, and the cruelty here is staggering. It is worth stopping to think about. These people got letters saying that their licenses are no longer valid. Can you imagine getting a letter in the mail saying, sorry, your license is taken from you. You can't
Right.
drive anymore. You can now not legally drive unless you get a new document that every time you look at it makes you feel terrible about yourself. Can you imagine, for those of you, which is, I assume, most of the audience, that is cisgender, meaning that you are not transgender, that you got a letter stating that you had to have the opposite gender marker on your license and how that would make you feel?
Exactly.
Well, we've got some good news coming for you. This is some bad news here, but we've got really good news coming up for you right after the break.
I'm Monica Scarbin. I love listening to the Transcendent podcasts. I've been listening to these podcasts for over 2 years now and have found them to be not only inspirational, but very informative and emotionally lifting to my spirits, especially when I'm not feeling very hot. I'm a supporter and I'm glad to be a supporter. Please go to transcendent.com, click on support by as little as $3 a month. You can cancel at any time.
Well, here's the big news, guys. Transcendent is continuing to grow. As a matter of fact, we are now in 72 countries. We've just passed 9,000 listeners, which is exciting for us as well. And won't be long, as a matter of fact, that we're going to hit the 10,000 level. But we're at the point now where many people have been asking us that they want to see some things from us. They'd like to see pictures of us. They'd like to find out a little bit more about what's happening in the future, what's coming up, what other things can we learn from them? How can they communicate with us? Well, we've got all kinds of ways that we're going to be doing that. In fact, the big news is beginning immediately, you're going to be able to sign up for our monthly newsletter. The newsletter that's going to tell you everything that's coming up in the future, things that we're doing. You're going to be seeing pictures, you're going to hear some ideas, and you're going to learn how to communicate with us, how to give us much easier, quicker, and faster and stronger feedback. It's going to be an exciting time, and it happens right now.
This is a big deal for us because it's a big deal for you. You've been asking us to do this. And of course, we have been doing this as a labor of love. So we're not making any money from this. Yes, we do ask for donations, but all of the donations go right back into the podcast so we can get the word out and so that we can help more people. So we are not just building a podcast, we're building a community. And so this is such a big deal. And it's going to be a big deal for you because you're going to get a preview of some of the episodes that are coming up. And you'll say, oh, this is going to be a really important one for me. You'll be able to jump on it right away when it's coming up. Maybe we'll be talking about an upcoming news story or a topic that matters for you. You're going to see that and you're going to be able to get it on your calendar and you're going to be able to catch it right away then that Monday. You're also going to get some great tips on how to preserve your relationships and some things that don't fit into a podcast format. And it's a great way to just stay connected with us. You can always just hit reply and get right back to us if you have a question or a comment. And it's a much better way for us to stay connected. Now, how do you do that? Go to dispatch.transcendent.com or click the link in the episode description. We'll take you right there. And all you do, you can do this on your phone or on a computer or anywhere that you have an internet connection. Just enter your email address. We've got the double opt-in, so it's going to send you an email. Go out to your email. You know the drill. If you've ever signed up for an email list. We're looking at right now just doing a monthly newsletter so you have an idea of what's going on. It really would mean a lot to us to have you be a part of it. But I think even more than that, it's going to really mean a lot to you. And what I ask you to do is right now, while you're on this podcast, don't wait. Just if you're listening to this on your phone, maybe you're out for your morning walk or you're doing this in the car. Maybe if you can just pull over for a moment or you're out wherever you listen to your podcast, just take a moment, click that link, go right in there, put your email in right now, and that's going to let you stay connected with everything that we have going on. This is a really, really big move for us. And I think as we form our community to be much more of what we're wanting it to be, you're going to be able to be part of it right from the ground floor.
That is very exciting news, and we just can't wait to have you see it. We'll become a lot bigger family together.
It's easy to get discouraged with the legislation that passed in Kansas and other places around the country, but come back next Monday. We're going to be covering small towns that surprise, why acceptance is more common than you think. That's going to be a feel-good one that's going to remind you that LGBTQ inclusion is a lot more common than you might think.
And with that, we'll see you Monday. You do another one of those skiing jokes, and I think this thing is going to go downhill fast.
That's good. I like that. That's a good one.
They're all good ones.